How we doing, everyone? And good Monday morning. Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie, riding solo and giving you the goods on a very eventful Saturday and Sunday in the National Football League. For me, on a personal level, a very disappointing Sunday. I must admit, watching the New York Giants come out and just have a very flat performance was kind of a gut punch to me. I really saw this week as an opportunity for them to jump quite a few teams. And had they shown up yesterday in New Orleans, that would have exactly been what had happened because they received a lot of potential help, but they weren't able to help themselves. Saturday night saw a Detroit Lions team just really refine their identity, their offense, and have a beautiful game. New York Jets season is essentially over after being shut out in South Beach. But undeniably, the story of the week is yesterday's Buffalo Bills Dallas Cowboys game. Going into the week, I did predict that the Bills were going to get this win at home. But I think what's got to be the most alarming thing to Cowboy fans is their inability to run the ball. When you play in inclement weather like that, you have to be able to run the ball. And yesterday, Josh Allen didn't exactly have the craziest stat line. You know, he took care of the football. He had a rushing touchdown. For the most part, it was the James Cook show. James Cook would have actually had another touchdown had he not dropped an easy pass when he was trying to turn the corner towards the end zone. Ever since the bye week, though, you know, credit has to be given to the Buffalo Bills. They have been just nonstop in terms of intensity. You know, they had lost that heartbreaker in Philly. They won on a bye week. And since coming back from the bye week, the Bills have been handling their business. And while the division title in the AFC East is still not completely out of reach, I think what's most important for the Bills right now is that they are playing at such a high level. Of course, it's funny how this league works. You just got done beating the Cowboys. Now, next week, the Cowboys make the trip to Miami, and the Bills will be rooting for the Cowboys. But it's wild. You know, the entire NFC East got beat yesterday. The Philadelphia Eagles will be making the trip out to Lumen Stadium, primetime scene tonight against the Seattle Seahawks. Washington Commanders played a little better. They were able to overcome a substantial lead and make it a game against the Los Angeles Rams, but the Rams keep winning, and it looks like the Rams are definitely looking good for one of those wild card spots. A division that I believe really stepped up yesterday that's been getting just a lot of crap from fans and the media alike was the NFC South. Yesterday, you had a New Orleans Saints team that has been ridiculed for a decent portion of the season, and with good measure, good reason. They put it on my New York Giants. Literally no excuse to be made from where I'm standing. They beat the Giants in all three phases of the game. But truly and thoroughly, where that game was decided was in the trenches, where the New York Giants could just not keep anyone off of quarterback Tommy Devito. Tommy Devito struggled mightily yesterday. I know some people were complaining on social media that he should have been the beneficiary of getting hit while sliding, but I'll tell you the truth. I looked at the replay multiple times. I think this comes with experience. I think he gave himself up a little too late on the play. He was smart enough to shield his head and kind of give up parts of his shoulder and back to avoid the worst impact. He had to get checked out for a concussion. In the interim, quarterback Tyrod Taylor came in my opinion, looked kind of sharp. This was a 7-6 game at the half. Giants had to resort to having their punter, the Scottish Hammer, Jamie Gillan, kick because of the fact that backup kicker, picked up kicker, the guy who replaced Graham Gano, Randy Bullock, After drilling a 56-yarder, he unfortunately pulled a hamstring, and on the kickoff, he was limping. It's never easy in the NFL when you lose a kicker. That's not why we lost yesterday, though. You got to give credit where it's due. Derek Carr was able to dissect the Giants secondary. In my opinion, I think Wink Martindale played a little too conservatively on that side from the coaching aspect. I think he should have sent more blitzes. Carr was just too comfortable. And mind you, the Saints did this without their best wide receiver, Chris Olave. You know, this is a division in the South where everybody going in yesterday was under 500. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers got a huge W in Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. And after the Packers get two huge wins on Turkey Day against the Lions, as well as a home victory against Kansas City, they now have two consecutive losses. Last week, Monday Night Football against the Giants in East Rutherford, losing late. But to get beat by 2 touchdowns in your house against a team from the South, Green Bay's not quite dead, but from a momentum-based standpoint, it does not look very good for the Packers right now. Chicago Bears showed me something yesterday, even though in defeat, and you just can't say enough about quarterback Joe Flacco right now. I'm in a 2-quarterback league where early in the season I had drafted Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. So as you can imagine, Aaron Rodgers made no contribution to my fantasy team. So all season I've been juggling different quarterbacks to try to find someone to help out Patrick Mahomes. I've gotten to a point where this week and last week it had to be Joe Flacco. And through 2 weeks after sitting on the couch semi-retired, Joe Flacco, it's just a great story. I mean, there's nothing else to say. I don't think they're going to catch the Ravens for the division crown, but the Browns are playoff bound. Pittsburgh Steelers coming out very, very flat against the Indianapolis Colts. And oddly enough, it seems like the turning point in that game was the controversial hit on Michael Pittman Jr. It seemed like after the ejection, the Colts woke up. I don't know if it was more coincidental that things went down that way. And, you know, this is an interesting question to the viewers. Quarterback Anthony Richardson led the Colts to a losing record before getting hurt early in the year. Insert Gardner Minshew, who the last few years has been looked at as a journeyman backup. This team is winning. I admit I picked the Steelers. I thought this was a get-right game for the Steelers. But it really looks like the Steelers' offensive problems are here to stay. And I mean, I guess another question for the viewers that could be interesting. Can the Steelers possibly move on from Mike Tomlin? I myself don't think that would be very fair, considering that, he doesn't have a quarterback that's healthy right now. And even the quarterback that started the season, quite frankly, he's not that good. But Mitch Trubisky isn't it either. And I think the Steelers got to really go back to the drawing board and ask themselves, do we want to move forward with Kenny Pickett, or do we want to go to the draft? We're seeing it around the league, guys like Zach Wilson, by signing a guy like Aaron Rodgers for the New York Jets this offseason. That's kind of their way of saying he's not it. He's been thrust into playing every week because of the Rodgers injury. It's been a mixed bag. In New York, Daniel Jones, prior to getting hurt, a lot of questions arising if the Giants made a mistake. Sprinkle in some Tyrod Taylor, now Tommy DeVito. But I must admit, I'm excited about what Tommy brought the first few weeks. What I saw yesterday was kind of like, a kid who wasn't drafted, basically. A kid who's a backup. That's what it looked like yesterday. I'm not going to pin everything that happened negatively to the Giants on the shoulders of number 15. That wouldn't be fair. But I must admit that it's unfortunate, squandered opportunity there. But what I'm getting at is when I think about NFL seasons, I do not recall another one where so many backup quarterbacks have been starting so many meaningful games at this juncture of the year. You had the triple header on Saturday that saw it all around the board. You had journeyman Nick Mullins versus Joe Burrow's backup, Jake Browning, which turned out to be one of the better games of the week. And in some people's estimations, the catch of the year by T. Higgins. Bengals won it. Nick Mullins essentially gave that game away with a very untimely turnover. Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens, in my estimation, are all playoff bound. The Jacksonville Jaguars have had the comfort of having a pretty substantial lead in the AFC South. But suddenly the Tennessee Titans, and while I don't think they could win the division, they're starting to win some games. CJ Stroud was in concussion protocol. He was not able to get on the field. And the Titans, after upsetting the Dolphins, get another one. Lumen Stadium is the site for tonight's Eagles Seahawks game. And as I opened the show up, I made mention how the Dallas Cowboys dropped it yesterday. Currently, the Eagles are back in first. An Eagles loss will put the Cowboys back in first. I like the Eagles tonight. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I do believe the Eagles come out on top. I'm going to go Philadelphia Eagles 34, Seattle Seahawks 26. I think there's going to be some points put up on the board, but I think the Eagles will withstand, and I think the Eagles will win. But right now, when I look at the playoffs approaching, I always look for these wild card teams that could make that next big push. Because we already know who the powerhouses are. We know the Niners are standing alone in the NFC. We know that the Baltimore Ravens are standing alone in the AFC. But I'm looking for like these wild card teams that could do something special in the playoffs. I'll do one for each conference, a couple of teams that stand out that could potentially do more than they're expected to. In the NFC right now, and this is a week-to-week answer, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are only sporting a 500 record at home. They're going to get a home game, and they're going to probably play the second-place team from the East, whether that's the Philadelphia Eagles, whether that's the Dallas Cowboys. Me personally, I think it'll be the Cowboys. They could beat the Cowboys on their field. That's not the most egregious task or the most egregious thing that could happen. Cowboys are great at home. On the road, they're okay. They're not great on the road. So that would be a wild card team that I say could possibly make some sort of a run. In the AFC right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's the Buffalo Bills. I think a lot of the losses that the Buffalo Bills caught earlier this year have kind of galvanized them. Nobody's talking about the Buffalo Bills, and this is a team that year in and year out is usually among the favorites in that particular conference. I love the resolve that I've seen from this team. Losing that game in Philly the way they lost that game, that is the type of loss that would usually tear a team down, that would break a team up, that would, essentially just ruin them. The Bills did not let that happen. There's been controversy all the way from the beginning of the year that Steph Diggs wasn't happy there. Coach Mike McDermott on the hot seat. These are a lot of things that they're overcoming. Josh Allen, in my opinion, is showing a grand maturity. Kansas City Chiefs, in my estimation, were not very impressive yesterday. You don't have to be very impressive to beat the New England Patriots. But I know they had to be very happy with the events of Detroit, just completely putting on a masterful offensive game against the Denver Broncos. The best game I think I've seen Jared Goff play since he was a Los Angeles Ram in that shootout against the Chiefs a few years back. But this is a game the Detroit Lions needed for their confidence because they haven't looked right for the better part of a month. And it also helps the Chiefs on their side of their division because now it spaces them out from Denver a little. We saw Coach Brandon Staley get fired this week after that egregious 63-21 defeat at the hands of the Raiders. Was it 63? Was it 61? Whatever it was. It was 60-something to 21. He's out. A lot of names are linked to who's going to replace him. Could it be the man in the building, Kellen Moore? Could it be Michigan's current college coach, Jim Harbaugh? Bill Belichick's might possibly be available after given some of the information coming out of New England. Ron Rivera, all indications look like he's going to be on the outs in Washington. My opinion is Eric Bieniemy is going to be the first man to get the upgrade, to get the promotion. He was brought in as an assistant head coach in the offseason for a reason. But things are really shaking up and shaping out right now. It just seems too easy to just naturally assume that the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers are both going to come in and just wipe it up and straight to the Super Bowl. I think there's a lot more to happen here. But I got to say about the Ravens, people continue to just kind of ignore them. And what do the Ravens do? They just keep winning. Jacksonville Jaguars still comfortably in first place in that South Division. But this has been a theme on our show that we have spoken about pretty much all year. They cannot win at home. They cannot win at home. The Jaguars just don't win in Duvall. It's egregious when you think about it. Shock of the weekend undeniably has to be the worst team in professional football, the Carolina Panthers, getting a 9-7 victory over the Atlanta Falcons. Because the NFC South has been set up on a lot of metrics to potentially be a photo finish. Saints got the big win against my team yesterday. The Bucs got the big win against the Packers. And the Falcons lose to the worst team in the league? Going into the week, you had to think that the Falcons had the easiest task of the day. Giants were coming in on a 3-game winning streak. Saints smacked them around. Packers are coming off a loss after a winning streak, and they're coming back home. I don't think any of us saw that, but that's what it is. Right now, the Saints and the Bucs are setting up for a photo finish in the South, and the Falcons still got some life. And also because of the trajectory of the way that these wild cards are working, a division that was getting made fun of so ferociously might actually send 2 teams. It is truly a week-to-week situation in the NFL right now. Very interesting. I'm going to say this right now. I am not looking forward to Christmas Day going into Philadelphia, a place that we have not won since the 2013 regular season. The Devito story is cool. Don't get me wrong. And I know I've sang his praises right here on the show. But I've said this about why they chose him over Tyrod. It's an evaluation. Do I think this kid could be retained to be the backup quarterback next year? I do think there's a distinct possibility. I've already alluded to on my show how quarterback Daniel Jones is probably not going to be ready in time for kickoff next year. But the way I look at the bigger part of this, the New York Giants would be crazy not to draft a quarterback. And I think that's still what the New York Giants should do. Whether it's in round 1 or round 2, I don't know. They have 2 picks in round 2. And after seeing that turnstile yesterday, it goes without saying the Giants need a right tackle. If Evan Neal's part of the future plans, you got to push him inside. That will be revealed. I got the Eagles tonight. Primetime Monday Night Football reclaiming first place. And that's going to lead into a very exciting Week 16, which is going to be highlighted by the Miami Dolphins hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Playoffs are right around the corner. Things are getting very interesting. And I'll tell you what's also interesting. I read multiple reports that Yamamoto was meeting with my beloved New York Yankees yesterday. We also know that many Los Angeles Dodgers were in attendance at some of his meetings. New York Mets have been linked to him, Uncle Stevie's long pockets. I believe a decision is going to be made soon. Yamamoto will make a decision on his baseball future. My guess is as good as anyone else's. It really just comes down to what he believes is going to be. A lot of people had Shohei in Toronto. He never even set foot in the country of Canada. But so much to still be ironed out with that. Baseball, the hot stove just continues to burn. My brother, Adam Acevedo. How you doing, bro? I'm going to be hanging with this guy on Christmas. Looking forward to it. He's busting out the briskets. My brother's recovering from back surgery. Lieutenant, firefighter, and becoming quite the chef. My brother loves to cook, man. And let me tell you, when my brother cooks, love being there. Guy's definitely growing a passion for cooking. Thank you for watching, Adam. I appreciate you hanging here today. And thank you for the toy for Noah, man. He absolutely loves that toy. He's been nonstop with it. You hit a home run with that one. Get at me in the comments, guys. I would love to know what you think of all the unpacking and all the action of what went down in a very eventful Week 15 in the National Football League. And get at me with your predictions tonight for Monday Night Football. I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, but it doesn't blind me from seeing that I think they're going to break their 2-game losing streak tonight. If they don't, the Cowboys reclaim first. Buffalo Bills are charging. Buffalo Bills are trying to make a jump at a serious wild card berth. Division title's not out of the question yet because you got to remember, the Bills beat the Dolphins earlier in the season. And I want to hear about all the head coaching movement. Bill Belichick might be out in New England. We already know that Staley's out in Los Angeles. Rivera's going to be out in Washington. A lot of player movement, a lot of coach movement. This weird season of all the dropped quarterbacks. And another thing, too, Jalen Hurts is sick. Is Marcus Mariota going to play tonight? That's another caveat to tonight's game. I'm still picking the Eagles even if Mariota plays because Seattle has their own share of injuries and their own share of issues at the quarterback position. I like the Eagles' front line. My concern with the Eagles is that secondary. I still think they have the better team, and I just don't see the Eagles dropping a third consecutive game. New York Giants fan, eating my humble pie today. Definitely a squandered opportunity to do something. Everybody, with the exception of the LA Rams, lost that the Giants needed to lose, and the Giants just could not seize the opportunity. They could not seize the opportunity to do what they had to do and get a must-win in New Orleans. You got it. Like I said, you got to give credit where it's due. It should have never happened, but it did. And with the year coming to a close very soon, Idris and I are going to be bringing you the 50th anniversary hip-hop show, something that we've been working on quietly and gradually. We're going to be releasing that in the near future. And don't be surprised if you see us soon getting on that baseball hot stove. So much going on right now in the world of Major League Baseball. New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers, very busy. Watch out for the Mets. I already stated this. Uncle Stevie has some serious long pockets, and I would not be the least bit surprised if something comes of that where the Mets become a big player for the services of Yamamoto. One thing about Uncle Stevie, he's not afraid to outbid someone. He proved that already in previous seasons. But this is, in my opinion, as a Yankee fan, I think this is a year where the Yankees just got to go out and get all their guys because I really will say this. Brian Cashman, Aaron Boone, their futures are on the line because the New York Yankees have gotten a little too complacent and a little too comfortable with mediocrity. And, you know, that's all I'm going to say because it's the truth. Consolation prize, if you don't get Yamamoto, bring back Jordan Montgomery. Until next time, I'm Richie for myself because I'm riding solo. If you haven't already, please make it a point, like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. And I will be back soon, everyone. Have a great Monday. Make it count.